I've been hella wavy since a baby. I got that sauce on me. Tasty.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the first episode of Cooking with Chow. So today I'm going to be making some Hong Shao Rou, which is a red braised Chinese pork belly. A lot of Asian cultures have a variation on this dish in some way or form, but the Chinese one is especially, famous in China. Before we get started, I want to show you some of the raw ingredients. So of course, first of all, we got to get our quality pork belly. This is about 2 pounds, picked up from the 99 Ranch. You want to look for pieces that are kind of evenly distributed between fat and meat. Next most important ingredient, you're gonna need soy sauce. And what I have here are 2 different kinds of soy sauce. So I got light soy sauce, which is gonna be the main source of saltiness in the dish. And I got the dark soy sauce, which is basically a more concentrated version of the light soy sauce used for cooking. And what this is gonna do is also add some salty flavor, but most of all, it's gonna bring out the dark color of it and help with that beautiful glaze that we're hoping to get by the end. We also got probably the second most important ingredient in maybe all of Chinese cooking, which is cooking wine. And this one in particular is shaoxing cooking wine. So it's a little lighter than some other cooking wines, but ideal for this dish because first of all, it's gonna kind of cancel out that gamey taste of the pork belly and bring out some of the flavor in the sauce and bring out some of the more subtle flavors within the meat. Next, we're gonna get to the sugar. So I got 2 kinds of sugar here. The first most important is this Chinese rock sugar. And we got this brown sugar. Ideally, I think you would use the rock sugar for everything, but it takes a little while to cook. So it's a lot easier, I think, just to use the powdered sugar. Next, we got some of our spices. The 3 most important ones are gonna be, first of all, this star anise, which this is an essential ingredient in a lot of Asian foods in general. Then we're gonna need this garlic. And finally, some ginger. Okay, let's get started. First thing we're gonna do is set a pot of water to clean and kind of tenderize the pork, because pork by itself is generally just very dirty. Pigs are not the cleanest animals, and pork raw has a lot of worms and other kind of dangerous things when you eat it raw. We put in this water before it's boiling. We don't want it to boil. Just set that to high and just leave it in there for about 5 minutes. It's gonna tenderize a little bit, the outside is gonna cook a little bit, and it's gonna make it a lot easier to cut, and also it's gonna clean and kill off a lot of the bacteria inside the pork. So while that's going on, I'm gonna go ahead and start chopping up this ginger and start peeling this garlic.
I drive 55 an hour.
Yeah, that was just me stumbling over the word hour and saying auto. But yeah, should we punch in from there or just do the second verse again? Okay, you see that? So the pork is now clean for the most part. So see how the water's all cloudy? That's all the dirtiness from the pork. So now that it's pretty clean, I'm gonna take this out, put it on the chopping board. Now we're gonna start chopping these up into about 1 to 2 inch cubes. And wow, this pork belly is actually a lot fatter than it should be. Look at that. It's a big chunk of just fat right there, Gotta do with what we have. Cuts through a lot easier than it would have without it. This knife is also just not very sharp. Look at this right here. This is a good specimen. Okay, so first thing we're gonna do when we start cooking, now that we've prepped all the ingredients, is we're gonna start caramelizing the sugar. I'm gonna put a little bit of oil in here just to grease the pan. Then I'm gonna put in, I don't know, let's say this amount of sugar. Put a little water onto this right here, which is just basically gonna help it dissolve a little quicker. Okay, so now this is already melted. Normally with the rock sugar it would have taken a little while, but regardless. So now there's a lot of conflicting opinions on how you actually go and do this. Some people actually mix the sugar in with the mixture of soy sauce, rice wine, everything together, and then boil it. Me personally, I'll start off with this sugar right here. I'm gonna go ahead and start adding this pork belly inside. There we go. Starting to sizzle a bit. So I have this on medium right now. What I'm gonna do next is go ahead and start adding some soy sauce. Personally, this is my approach. I go ahead, I'm just gonna add a bunch of soy sauce right here. After this, I get the dark soy sauce. See that splash? Yeah, beautiful. All right, finally, need some shaoxing cooking wine just to get rid of this pork flavor and even the smell. You know, the smell is kind of strong. Just a splash, it doesn't need too much. So essentially what we're going for is we want this to be about like half to maybe 2/3 coated. We could use a little bit more, so I'm gonna fill up some more water. Okay, just a little bit more water. Just want to make sure that most of the pork belly is covered. So right now I'm gonna add all this garlic that we chopped up earlier, and I'm gonna go ahead and add some ginger. I'm gonna add the star anise, which is gonna give a lot of flavor. And just make sure one more time that all this is covered and all this is being absorbed into the broth that we are simmering in. Now that it's starting to simmer, I'm gonna go ahead and cover up the lid and move the heat down to low. And we're gonna let it sit in this position for about an hour to an hour and a half. And we want it to get to that point where the fat is gonna kind of melt in your mouth. A lot of times when people make pork belly, you know, the fat's a little tough. We want the fat and the meat to both be extremely tender and just have an unbeatable texture. So I'm gonna go ahead and add a little more sugar. Just want to make sure that the pork starts picking up some of this sugar flavor. It starts absorbing it. We'll close this back up. Alright, so it's been about like an hour, 15 minutes, and now I think it's looking pretty good. It's looking pretty tender. So now it's on low. I just took the cap off. I'm going to turn it back up to high because what we're going to try to do now is reduce this sauce. So ideally at the end, this sauce should be a lot more thick and more of a glaze on top of this. Probably take about 10-15 minutes to reduce it. First of all, actually I gotta try the flavor and make sure that this tastes proper. Needs more sugar. So luckily I got my fresh rock sugar right here. Just gonna toss that in. Ideally, when you're caramelizing rock sugar, you want to set it to low and let it slowly melt away. I think the flavors are a lot more complex that way. But I'm just gonna let it melt as fast as I can. So the other thing that's different about this is that I'm making this in basically a big pan. Ideally, we would make this in a wok, right? Because the shape of the wok would let you put less sauce in general, which would make it easier to reduce at the end while still covering all the meat. But however, I don't have a wok, so I'm thinking that this probably isn't going to reduce all the way because I did have to put a lot of sauce in at the beginning, but it's okay. Absolutely necessary is a little rice to, you know, balance all the flavor. Foundation of the meal right there. Look at that, we're just letting the sugar crystallize a little bit. Just not trying to touch it or break it. I think we're hitting that sweet spot right now. We can kind of see the glaze is starting to form, all these bubbles.
It's been a minute. It's been a minute.
This is true beauty right here.
It's been a minute.
Ooh. Yep. Just turned the heat off. So smooth, baby. This is how pork belly was meant to be made. So, got my rice right here. Let's pick a few delicious pieces. Lay them all out. So, over here we got some delicious red braised pork belly, Hong Shao Rou. I want to find the perfect piece. I think this is a good representative of the perfect piece. Look at that. Oh, you can already tell it's going to be really tender, kind of melt in my mouth. Mmm. 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 Tasty. That's amazing. Everything is, oh. You ever have fall off the bone ribs? That's like fall off the bone ribs, but there's no bone to fall off of. It just falls off all over into your mouth. The ideal texture is to the point where the fat on it, and even the meat to some extent, You can just break it all using just your tongue. You don't even need your teeth. Oh my gosh. And the flavor is not too salty, not too sweet. It's just this perfect balance, and the glaze on top of it makes sure that it's evenly distributed. The pork belly actually absorbed a lot of the salty soy flavor, and the sugar kind of came over on top as a glaze. So it kind of merges into this salty pork, fatty texture as well, but on the outside nice and sweet. It all just combines to make this amazing flavor, man. Incredible. Okay, thank you for watching. Let me know what you thought. Give me any suggestions on dishes I should try making, how I can improve on this Hong Shao Rou recipe in case your family has a better, idea, or you have a better idea. I thought this was pretty delicious. But in the meantime, man, when I'm not working on music, I'm trying to make more delicious food. And eat.